Welcome and happy Thursday, everyone. We are back with our Fireside Chat. Today, I have the honor and privilege of speaking to my brother, Christopher Wilson, who is also the Deputy Executive Director of Claremont Neighborhood Center. I hope I did not butcher that. We're so excited to have him today. He's a social worker at heart, and he's going to talk about the work he's been doing as the Deputy Executive Director, as well as his trajectory and how he's rose from intern to being at the top of a nonprofit in New York City. I want us to do us. I want you to do me a favor if you are watching and share this message out. We want to make sure we amplify this message to our communities. So share it out and also engage with us. Tell us what you're thinking. Tell us your thoughts. Give us feedback so that we can engage with you, whether you're watching on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook. Help us to uplift this message. And then also, we want you to subscribe to all of our channels at iRaise.org on all social media platforms. That is LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. I don't know if it's still called TikTok, right? Yeah, and Instagram. And go ahead and also subscribe to our newsletter online at iraiseinc.org. And then finally, don't forget to follow me at Shaniqua E. Moore on all social media platforms. All right, let's get started. Robert, welcome. Finally, how are you doing? Thank you for being with me today.
Oh, fine. It's funny because you Christopher Wilson, but you know me as Robert, my middle name. So it's funny. Everybody's like, "Who's Robert? Who's she talking about?"
Yep, that's his name, y'all. So Robert and I grew up together and in the same ministry from the time that we were kids. So we have watched each other literally go through, I think, almost everything. So it's always great to have like that personal relationship, but also to be able to see you grow as a professional. I think it's incredible. So I'm going to read your bio, and that's okay for those that don't know you, and then we'll jump into some questions. Okay. So Christopher Wilson graduated from John Lindsay Wildcat Academy, Charter High School in the Bronx, Boogie Down Bronx, and attended Nyack College. Shout out to Nyack College, where he was accepted into the Accelerated Social Work program. In 2015, after a brief academic hiatus, Mr. Wilson returned to his studies as a sociology major at Lehman, is it New Rochelle, College of New Rochelle, and finished with a bachelor's degree in sociology. He also attended Lehman College, where he received a credential in family development issued by Cornell University. I did not know that. At the age of 19, Mr. Wilson, as a program coordinator, was one of the youngest persons in the Bronx running a foster care program. That is tremendous, designed to teach conflict resolution and mediation skills. From there, he went on to work as a program coordinator for Inwood House, where he established the Teen Choice Peer Leaders Program. Mr. Wilson was then recruited to work in the Department of Education as a parent coordinator, where he worked with families and kids in the community to access resources. He is presently, and this is a huge congratulations to you, Mr. Wilson, is the Deputy Executive Director of the Claremont Neighborhood Centers Incorporated, which has successfully developed, administered, and implemented several DYCD contracted programs for high risk young people. Mr. Wilson believes that in order to empower our youth, one must establish a relationship, because through that relationship, you can empower an entire community. Mr. Wilson is currently slated to become the next executive director in a few months at Claremont Neighborhood Center Incorporated. That's incredible. So let's start off with the first question, and that is, what led you into this work? What was the catalyst for you that led you into sociology or into social work?
Well, for me, it was really my upbringing. I'm a product of the foster care system. I was taken away from my family when I was 4 years old. My mom, who had severe mental health issues, wasn't at a place to raise me, and so I bounced around from home to home. And being in foster care, I knew what was going on. I was very much aware of what was going on. I knew that these people that I was living with wasn't my family. And so when when it was time for me to, be adopted, I started, just venturing out there and just doing things that I wasn't supposed to do. And then I started working with kids through like a summer youth program, and I just started realizing that I really like working with kids, and it was a gift. And so as you saw at 19 years old, I was running my own program. Um, it was for young people who were in foster care who needed to be able to develop the skills of conflict resolution and mediation. And it was like a peer leadership program, and just through that programming and being able to work in that and being able to see and work in an organization that was predominantly youth empowerment, the young people, we led the organization, and we were running the programs. And so for me,
Incredible.
I became just very passionate about it, and I said, you know what, this is the path that I want to go into.
That's so powerful. And, just what really stands out to me is you were 19 years old. You had just graduated high school, and so what was it like for you being so young and having that level of responsibility? And then how did you know that that was what you were called to do?
So it's so funny. I tell a story. When I first got, the name of the organization is called EARS. It stands for Effective Alternative for Reconciliation Services. And when I first got there, I see all of these young people, running programs, facilitating workshops,
I
and I'm
love
like,
that.
wait a minute, like what's happening here? And I never forget one of my good friends, Shantae Washington. She was one of the coordinators there, and she was in college. I wasn't in college at the time, and I mean, she was a go getter, and she was just up there, just I was just amazed, and I was like, wait a minute, what is happening here? Like, we have young people who's running these programs, who are standing in front of people who have more education than them, and they're owning the room. They're facilitating workshops around conflict resolution, domestic violence, all of these things. I'm like, I was amazed. And so to be around that group of young people, it was, in a lot of ways, it was intimidating, but it kind of pushed me to where I needed to be. And I wound up going back to school. I wound up That's why I wound up going back to school, just being around those young people. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on, y'all can't have one up on me. This is not okay.
Right. That's incredible, though. I'm just like, when you were telling the story, I was almost imagining young people teaching and facilitating, and like how not just liberating, but how powerful is that to have young people in spaces. Wondering, in your role currently as deputy executive director, how do you give young people opportunities to lead or to be able to own in certain roles?
Well, here at Claremont, we have a motto, which is, we give our young people a voice and choice. And so we have what's called our Urban Ambassadors program, where we meet with our young people, monthly. We say, hey, listen, all right, this is not just my organization. This is your organization. What do you want to see here? Why do you want to see it? Right. And we just give them that power, and so they can have that say in what happens here. One of the biggest things, um, that came from the Urban Ambassadors program that we had last year. We were involved in the DYCD first pitch, and there was an issue. They said, hey, listen, we have there's a mental health crisis going on in our community, right? But then there's also a high level of violence that's going on in our community. What's happening here, right? We know the pandemic had just happened, and everybody's reeling from the pandemic. Why are young people being so violent to one another? And so, I had my young people, we did this project, and I just empowered them. I said, hey, listen, here's the topic, go do what you need to do. And so, they went and they presented, and we actually won out of 30 organizations. We won. we,
Wow.
we wound up having a mural that's placed downstairs in our lobby, and that's just one form of just, empowerment. We have a partnership with a program called Medic, and we literally just got off the phone with them. uh, every year, we travel to other countries, or maybe other states, to look at how they're doing community work there, right?
Wow.
And how we can bring that stuff back. And so last year we went to Puerto Rico, and oh my gosh, it was amazing. I said, hey, I have to bring young people with me. And so this year we're going to New Orleans, and we're slated to bring young people to New Orleans so they can see that community work and feel empowered and come back and say, okay, hey, listen, we saw this happening here. What are the changes that we can make here in our community? And it's really just about always involving the youth in every single thing that we do.
Wow. That is so, and just congratulations to all of the success, all the things that you've been doing. It really sounds like you really have taken that experience as a young person and you've become a catalyst in this space. And it's really incredible to witness that. And you talked a lot about the co-creation models with young people, and even learning from others overseas, not necessarily overseas yet, I guess soon, but learning from other groups and seeing what are they doing that could essentially be taken back to New York City. I think even those experiences and exposure for young people allows them to see things differently and shift their paradigms. I'm going to go on to the next question. I want to share a quick story where I had the privilege of visiting my old high school health opportunities, where we run two programs through. We have a college career pathway and also a mental health program we run at that school. And one particular day, I came to visit, and we were working on, I believe it was vision boards, something around that. And the kids were tasked with writing out their vision plan. And some of the kids were really stuck. They didn't really know what life looked like beyond high school, and some of their dreams were like, "Well, I just want to have a baby," or I don't know, "I just want to buy a car," but they couldn't really think beyond their current circumstances. And so, what I love that your organization is doing is you're giving kids a chance to see something they've never seen, to experience something they never have. And that exposure really is a catalyst and what kids really need. So thank you for your work. Thank you for what you're doing. Any comments on that for my next question?
So, it's so funny that you say that. I think a lot of what I do with young people, I'm always looking at ways and how I can expose them to things that I know that they've never been exposed to. I remember taking young people downtown just to go bowling, and they said, "Are we still in the Bronx?"
Oh,
And you'll
wow.
be amazed how many young people have never left the Bronx, have
Wow.
never been. We did a camping trip one year, and they said, "Are we still in the? Are we in New York?
Wow.
Where are we?" And you'd be amazed how many young people have never been outside of New York. And
That's
so,
fascinating.
it's so funny you mentioned how a lot of young people don't know what they want to do after high school, and I was like one of those young people. And I
Mhm.
remember picking up the phone and calling Mr. Jones, say, "Hey, all right, I got out of high school. What's
What
next?
do
what
what do
what do, what do I do?" And it's kind of
yeah.
like it's that crossroads, right? It's that crossroads, and we talked about this before, but I'm starting a college prep and career readiness program. It's actually called
Yeah.
Beyond the Block, right?
Wow.
What's
That's
next? Like,
incredible.
right? So when you graduate high school, what's next? What? And a lot of times, a lot of young people can't see what's beyond the block. All
Yeah.
they know is I'm gonna graduate high school and I'm gonna work and I'm gonna still hang out on the block. I'm gonna still be on the block, but it's so much more. Us going to NIAC was
Yeah.
a huge eye opener. For a lot of us.
Sure.
I mean, Shaniqua, you used to do the what
Yeah.
was you used to do?
What do I do cheerleading?
You used to oh, you remember you used to get raise money to go on the mission trip,
Missionary trips.
the missionary
Yes.
trips. Like that was
People
huge.
don't know that. I did that. I did work.
Huge exposure, being able to
Yeah.
travel and do missionary work and do community work. A lot of our young people don't know what that is,
Yeah.
and it's so sad because all they know is what they see on social media, what they see on TV, and
Mhm.
it's so much more beyond the block. I as an adult, and I'm gonna let you move to the next question. Just as an adult, I've always said, I say to young people, I say, you know what? There's so many things that I wish that I did when I was younger. I says I didn't travel out of the United States till I was 30 years old,
Yeah.
right? But there are people who are traveling, who are doing things, who are experiencing things that is so, that's just beyond a lot of people wildest imagination. So, but that's part of the reason why we're doing that program.
That's it. I mean, I love the name. I'm sold on Beyond the Block. And yes, I don't always talk about my experience in and some of the missionary work that I did as a college student. But I was privileged enough to be able to travel to a few countries, and that really did open up my mindset. I think that's what put me into the work that I'm doing today. So I think it really is important. And even as we're talking, Robert, I'm thinking about ways that even my agency can be more intentional about crafting experiences to allow kids to get out of the block or get out the Bronx and do other things. Because sometimes it's just that one trip that makes all the difference, and it would change the trajectory of their lives. So I'm challenging myself and my staff to find creative ways to even learn from the things that you all are doing. Um, so we talked a lot about young people and all the things that you're doing. I want to know about you as a leader, as a nonprofit leader. You're a young Black man running a successful a nonprofit agency that serves thousands of families every year. What is that like for you? What are some of the highs and some of the lows of that?
Wow. So, it has its with everything, it has its challenge. It has its challenges. Nothing is easy, but it's hard work. I want to say any organization that is ran by a Black professional, you have to understand, if you don't understand the hustle game, then you're not gonna succeed. And we
Absolutely.
have to hustle harder than anybody else.
Oh my
We
goodness.
have to stand out. We have to go above and beyond the measure of just the calling of what our contracts even require us to do,
Oh,
just to be able to stand out, just to be able
mm,
to say, hey, we deserve this contract. Hey, we deserve to be at the table. And so it's difficult.
my goodness.
When you're thinking about culture, you're thinking about change. There's a lot of things here that culturally, like, hey, we got to catch up. We got to catch up on some things, right? And so, how do you get your staff there? And then it requires a lot of training, a lot of patience, but also it requires you, just as yourself, to be transparent. As a leader, as a Black leader, we have to be very careful what we do. We have to be very careful what we say,
Right.
because everyone is looking up to us. Every child, every man, woman in the community, that they're looking up to us. And in the community where I work in, it's rough. It's not.
Yeah.
It's
Tell us about
it's
your
not
community
easy.
that you work in. Yeah.
I work on 169th Street and between
Mhm.
Washington and Third Ave. It's rough, and I'm from here, right? So I
Mm.
have thick skin. I can handle the criticism. But there are a lot of people that cannot come in this community and work in this community, and they won't be able to work here, because if you don't understand the community, if you don't understand the needs of the community, you it's funny. Me and Mr. Jones, we talk about this. We don't have a 9 to 5 job. Like,
That's
our
right.
work comes home with us.
Absolutely.
I can get a phone call from a young person. Hey, Mr. Wilson, my mom just kicked me out. I
Mhm.
don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. That's still work. That's still work. I can get a call from a parent, like, hey, I need help with this. I need help with that. That's still work. And being able to have for people to have access to you like that. I don't think, if you're not from the community, and if you're not, if you're not a Black person, you're not going to understand the needs of this community, and you have to be sensitive, very sensitive to that. So just being a leader it has its rewards, and is there's some days it's like, oh, I want to pull my hair out. But I think at the end of the day, when I walk through my hallways and I see my kids giving me high fives or giving me hugs, hey, Mr. Wilson, how you doing? I like your sneakers, Mr. Wilson, or whatever compliments, it makes me feel good, because I know that, hey, I'm doing the work. Like, these young people, they want to be here. I got kids that, when their parents come pick them up, they start crying because they don't want to leave. They want to stay here. They want
Wow.
to they want to be here. And that just speaks to the testament. So it's hard. It's
Wow.
hard, but it's rewarding. But if you do the work, and you stay diligent, and you do the work, and you stay true to yourself, you'll be rewarded.
Wow, that was so well said. And one of the things I wrote on my little notepad that I keep looking down on is we deserve to be at the table. And I think that's so important for nonprofit Black leaders, because we are often isolated from the table, whether it's from certain pools of funding or whether it's from certain opportunity. We have to constantly work very hard and hustle. And I know that hustle also well. So, um, I think there has to be ways to make things more equitable for nonprofits that are led by Black people, people of color. Another thing that you said that really stands out to me is the importance of hiring from within the community. And I think oftentimes we see organizations that are they are completely disconnected. They don't know the history, the culture of that community, and they're setting up programs without a connection. And what I see with you is you grew up right there, and now you're leading an agency right in the middle of where you grew up. And I think that's powerful. I want to see more young Black men like you come from communities where you defy all odds and statistics, and where you get to be in the place of making decisions.
Often say, me working here in my community where I grew up at is my protest. This is my protest. And me coming back here, I worked in many other different places. And I say, you know what? Why haven't I worked in my community where I grew up at? Why can't I take my talents and my skills back to where I grew up at? And that was partly why I decided to come back to work here. I was working in Harlem, working in Brooklyn. So wait a
Wow.
minute, what about the Bronx? Let's go
Right.
back to the Bronx.
With the Bronx.
Like, come
Right.
on, they need me out there too.
That's right.
But yeah, but it's truly important. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. The Bronx needs you and needs the rest of you that are have been born and raised there. And I sound like a hypocrite kind of because I'm not right now in the Bronx. But however, my agency works in about 10 schools in the Bronx. So we're still reaching young people and continuing to expand to new schools. Um, so tell me, you're not a social worker per se, but you are. To you, when you hear social work, what does that mean to you?
Social work. So it's really about it's really about people understanding the needs of the community, right? Understanding, I mean, when you think about sociology, sociology is just the study of a social problem. Like, what's the problems? And for me, I'm a problem solver. I look at, okay, what are the problems and how can we solve them, right? What are the tools necessary needed to solve these issues, to solve these problems? And I think, through that, when people have so many different ideas about what social work is, right? You have an individual who does social work inside of a school setting, inside of a hospital setting, but it's so much more, to that, and just being boots on the grounds, in the community, and just really, doing, really doing that work. I mean, that's what it just means to me, just being able to look at a problem and say, hey, listen, what are the tools necessary to solve this problem? And how can we get to this?
That's so incredible, Robert. I am working on a concept called social worker power through problem solving, and it is teaching social workers that you are problem solvers. So I love that you answer that. I ask social workers this question all the time, and no one has ever answered it in that way, that we find a problem and we solve it, but you have. So you're absolutely correct. Social workers solve problems. We look at social problems and we find a way to solve them, and we utilize techniques and tools. And you're doing that right now in your role. So thank you for that. And finally, my last question is around ways that we can improve our efforts in the community. So, what do you believe are the key components of successful community empowerment initiatives? And how do you plan to incorporate them into your leadership at Claremont Neighborhood Center?
Panama has a model by which they like to include everyone, all of the community leaders, to come together to be able to do community work. And that's hard work, right? To get different leaders from different spaces to
Mhm.
come under one umbrella to say, hey,
Mhm.
listen, this is what we want to do for the community. And
Right.
oftentimes that's really hard to do because sometimes they'll say it's too many cooks in the kitchen and everybody wants to be the leader, but nobody wants to really follow.
For sure.
And to be able to do that kind of work is something that I'm currently striving for. you
Mhm.
know um I currently, right now, we're moving back to doing more community work, and so currently I have two events slated. I want to do a Mother's Day brunch slash mommy and paint
Nice.
event, and the reason why is I want to do something for the mothers in the community. You have a lot of mothers in the community. They're working hard, they're doing things, and we just want to be able to give back. And hey, come in, come see what we're doing here. Come spend a day with us. Come eat, come spend time with your with your daughter, with your child, and just hang
Yeah.
out with us here. And then in June, Claremont has always been big on fathers, and I'm a father
Yes.
myself. And so
Mhm.
Claremont has always had father daughter dance. And
Okay.
so what we're going to do, we're changing it this year. We're going to do a father daughter brunch.
Nice.
And then we say, hey, listen, well, what about the fathers and their sons? And so now we're going to do a father versus son basketball game. And that's
Oh.
how we want to build community. And it's not really just it could be a young person who has an uncle that they look up to. And so we want to begin to rebuild community, right? When COVID-19 happened, a lot of things kind of got pushed to the side. A lot of community work got pushed to the side, and so we want to get back to that, right? And so I think this is one of the ways that that we do it. It's going to take effort. It's going to take patience. It's going to take people in the community coming together and say, hey, let's come together. What's the issue in the community? What is the issue? And let's tackle it together. And if people can come together and be like-minded, like that, we can accomplish so much. We oftentimes we say that sometimes we have this crab in the barrel mentality,
Yeah.
right? We can just put aside our feelings, n- you know, not get offended by things, and just really work together to solve a lot of the issues in the community. I think that we'll be better off. I also think you know having the support from our politicians, from our councilmen.
Absolutely.
I think is important. I think Claremont, we're in a space where we do have that support.
Mm.
And seeing them come out and just being supportive of what we're doing, and just even the local stores, in the area. Hey, how can we get them involved? Right? You have a business in our community.
That's right. That's right.
The whole other conversation. You have a business in our community. How
That's right.
can you support? How can you help support our community?
Absolutely. No, that was so comprehensive, and there's so many things that stuck out to me that I can't touch on all of them, but the one thing I want to mention, the two things is the politicians and the necessity of our local leaders being involved in what's going on in their district and their community. It pains me, I'm not going to go on a rant, that when people get elected, they are nowhere to be found. And people are reaching out, community groups are reaching out, and there is no response. We got to do better than that. But what I appreciate, especially with, I'll just shout out your councilwoman, Althea Stevens. I think she's
Yes.
doing great work, as well as Vanessa Gibson, borough president. I think she's also doing great work. And it makes a difference when you have the backing, the support, and the monetary contributions of the council members. So for those that are doing it well, we appreciate you. And for those that are not, please step it up in the best way possible. And then the other thing, lastly, is the bodegas and the importance of getting them involved. It may sound minute, but I think it's really a solution, Robert, because I recently heard about twins that were one of the twins that was murdered, and it was the bodega that closed that store closed the door while that child, that teenager was being murdered. And it's happened so many times where people were murdered right outside of bodegas, right? I think, and when you're talking about crime and how to make communities safe, how do we involve bodegas and those that work in that community as leaders, to prevent or to even maybe intervene? I'm not sure what needs to happen, but I think that is right there an opportunity that you can look into for sure.
I agree. I agree.
Well, we're coming to a close, and I want people to be able to reach out to you. If people are interested in joining Claremont Neighborhood Centers, how could they become a member or be able to benefit from all the incredible programming that you're doing? And how do people reach you directly?
They can follow our Instagram page at Claremont Neighborhood Centers. Send us a message. You can also email me directly at cwilson@claremontcenters.org, and you reach out and see what program you're interested in, and we can get you connected to us.
Awesome. All right. Awesome. So that is Chris at Claremont Neighborhood Centers. And the website is at
.org.
Org.
.org.
Org.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that org. And just to clarity, do you accept anyone in the Bronx, or do you have
Anybody,
to be? All right, awesome. So go
anywhere.
ahead, y'all
Doesn't matter.
mothers. If y'all want some good food, go to Claremont. Fathers, if you ready to, show your sons what you got. And June, go and participate and support. I'll be there as much as I can whenever I'm in town. But thank you for the incredible work that you're doing, Robert. Continue to push forward. I know that the hustle is real, life be lifing, but you are needed, and I am so proud of you. So thank you so much for
Much.
joining me.
Thanks, sis. I appreciate you.
Thank you. And thank you all for watching, for listening. Do us a favor and lift this message up and elevate it by sharing it out. If there's something that resonated with you, a wisdom nugget, anything, share it with us, comment below, even if you're watching this later on. Don't forget, again, to subscribe to all of our social media platforms at iRaise.org, as well as Shaniqua E. Moore at all social media platforms. And finally, do not forget to subscribe, y'all, to our Elevate podcast. We have some incredible episodes that's being released on all major podcast platforms. We love you guys so much. We appreciate you. Happy Social Work Month. Happy Women's History Month. And we will be back. So stay tuned. Thanks, Rob.